Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping into a really fascinating product mystery that sits right at the crossroads of social media and crypto. We're going to ask, what happens when every single like or reply you make suddenly has a price tag attached to it? Seriously, just picture it for a second. You're scrolling your feed, you see a post you absolutely love, and you tap that like button. But instead of just being a simple social nod, that tap automatically sends a few cents in crypto straight to the creator. Sounds kind of revolutionary, right? Well, as we're about to find out, this one simple idea is packed with some serious hidden complexities. And this really gets to the core conflict of the whole thing. I mean, on one hand, you've got this incredible dream, a super seamless way to support the creators you love and build a stronger digital economy. But then, on the other hand, there's this huge risk. Does adding money into every little interaction totally break the spontaneous, casual fun of social media? Does it add this layer of friction that people just don't want to deal with? Now, this isn't just some theoretical debate we're having. We're diving into a study based on a real-world proposal for a Web3 social platform called Farcaster. They were actually thinking about building a feature where things like likes or follows would automatically trigger a small crypto tip. The technology was there ready to go, but the million-dollar question was, would anybody actually use it, or could it completely backfire? So how in the world do you solve a mystery like this before you sink a ton of time and money into building the thing? Well, you have to crack the user code. And the researchers behind this study, they used a really clever approach to predict how people would react, and it all revolved around two key frameworks. First up is this idea called jobs to be done. It's a really powerful concept. Instead of asking what features people want, you ask a different question. What job are they trying to get done in their life? Are they hiring a social media app to connect with their friends, or are they hiring it to build a business, maybe just to be entertained? Figuring out that core motivation, well, that's everything. Okay, the second framework is a classic, the technology adoption lifecycle. This helps us slice up the user base based on how hungry they are for new stuff. You've got your risk-taking innovators all the way on one end, and the super skeptical laggards on the other. Now, here's where the magic happens. When you combine this life cycle with jobs to be done, you can start to predict with incredible accuracy how these very different groups are going to react to the exact same feature. And that's exactly what happened. When the researchers put these frameworks into action, 4 totally distinct user groups popped out. 4 different realities. And this is where it gets so fascinating, because it proves there's no single one-size-fits-all experience for a product. So let's meet these 4 groups. First up, you have the crypto natives. These are your innovators. I mean, these folks live and breathe the Web3 world. They're already totally comfortable with digital money and decentralized everything. For them, a feature like this isn't weird at all. In fact, it actually feels more authentic. In their minds, every single interaction online already has value, so making that value tangible with a tiny tip just makes sense. It doesn't break the interaction, it strengthens it. Okay, next up, let's talk about the content creators. Think of them as your early adopters. They're on the platform to build an audience, to build a business. So yeah, getting paid is always on their mind. And their take on this is way more nuanced. They see the upside, for sure. The idea of getting paid directly for their work is totally liberating. But they're also hyper-aware of the risk. If this tipping thing makes their audience pause for even a second before liking or commenting, that friction could destroy the very engagement they need to survive. It's a classic double-edged sword. Now we get to the group that every platform absolutely needs to win over if it's going to grow, the early majority. These are your everyday, pragmatic users who need to see a really clear benefit before they're going to try something new. And whoa, their reaction is a huge red flag. For them, a like is supposed to be easy, casual, and low stakes. The second you attach money to it, you introduce financial anxiety. All of a sudden, every tap is a tiny transaction, a decision you have to make. And that decision fatigue completely ruins the job they hired the app for in the first place, which was probably just some easy, mindless fun. And finally, we've got the skeptics, your late adopters. These are the users who are just naturally resistant to change, and they're especially wary of new, complicated systems, particularly when money's involved. Their reaction isn't just negative. It's a deep, fundamental rejection of the entire concept. They don't see this as an opportunity to support creators. They see it as a form of coercion. It feels like the platform is trying to trick them into spending money on something that's always been free. To them, it feels invasive, even predatory. So there you have it. Four totally different user groups with four completely different, often polar opposite reactions. And all of this leads us to the final verdict, the one core insight from this study that changes how you have to think about a feature like this.
And here it is, the crucial point. Automatic microtipping is not a neutral feature. It's not some simple little upgrade that everyone experiences the same way. No, it is a deeply polarizing idea that actively helps one group, while at the same time actively harming another.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly. Look at this contrast. For the innovators, the feature amplifies the meaning of an interaction and feels empowering. But for the mainstream, it destroys the casual vibe and creates anxiety. It strengthens the value exchange for one group while just adding decision fatigue for the other. It is a feature of complete opposites. And if you ignore that, you're headed for disaster. So what do you do with that information? You can't just launch the feature and cross your fingers. This is where that user psychology has to drive your product strategy. The study doesn't just point out the problem, it actually gives a really clear path forward. In the recommendation is a really smart three-step rollout. First, and this is probably the most important part, make it opt-in. Never ever force this on everyone by default. Second, you phase the rollout. You follow that adoption curve we talked about. Don't just throw it at the mainstream on day one. And third, be targeted. Introduce it first to the crypto natives and the creators. The only users whose job to be done actually lines up with what the feature does. At the end of the day, the big takeaway from all of this is that you simply cannot separate a new feature from the psychology of the people who are going to use it. What seems like a brilliant technical idea can totally flop if it clashes with the core emotional needs of your audience. Your strategy has to be built on empathy, period. And that really brings us to the final question we should all be asking ourselves. It's not just about what a new feature does, but about how it makes people feel. So before you go off and build your next great idea, maybe pause and ask, what's the hidden emotional cost? Thanks for tuning in.